of President Joe Biden's top advisors asked U.S. lawmakers to provide billions more dollars to Israel at a congressional hearing interrupted repeatedly by protesters denouncing American officials for backing what they called genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. As the hearing began, a line of anti-war protesters raised red-stained hands in the air. Capitol Police later removed them from the room after shouted slogans including, "Ceasefire now," "Protect the children of Gaza," and "Stop funding genocide."
Committee will suspend, and I again ask that those in the audience respect the people in the room.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin testified to the Senate Appropriations Committee on Biden's request for $106 billion to fund ambitious plans for Ukraine, Israel, and U.S. border security.
Russia's aggression against Ukraine, not in the face of an intensifying strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific and around the world.
If the witness will suspend.
Stop funding this brutal massacre that Israel is doing on the people of Gaza. 3,500 kids dead. Come on, I'm an Army colonel, I'm a former diplomat, I resigned on that war in Iraq that you talked about. That was a terrible thing, and what they're doing right now in supporting Israel's genocide of Gaza is a terrible thing too. Stop the war! Ceasefire now!
Biden requested $61.4 billion for Ukraine, about half of which would be spent in the United States to replenish weapons stocks drained by previous support for Kyiv. Biden also asked for $14.3 billion for Israel, $9 billion for humanitarian relief, including for Israel and Gaza, $13.6 billion for U.S. border security, $4 billion in military assistance and government financing to counter China's regional efforts in Asia. Blinken did not respond to the protesters, but when he was asked later about the possibility of a ceasefire, he said that would only help Hamas regroup.
I also hear very much the passions expressed in this room and outside this room. All of us are committed to the protection of civilian life. All of us know the suffering that is taking place as we speak. All of us are determined to see it end. But all of us know the imperative of standing up with our allies and partners when their security, when their democracies are threatened. That's what's happening now. We stand resolutely with them, even as we stand resolutely for the protection of innocent civilians.
Could you clarify the administration's position on a ceasefire?
We do believe that we have to consider things like humanitarian pauses to make sure that assistance can get to those who need it and that people can be protected and get out of harm's way. But we can't have a situation where there's a reversion to the status quo, where when this is over, it goes back to Hamas being responsible for the governance and so-called security of Gaza, because that's simply an invitation to repeat what happened. And again, no nation would tolerate that.
Congress has already approved $113 billion for Ukraine since Russia invaded in February 2022. The White House has said it has less than $5.5 billion in funds to continue transferring weapons from U.S. stockpiles to Ukrainian forces fighting Russia. The path forward for Biden's latest funding plan looks uncertain. Democrats solidly back Biden's strategy of combining Ukraine aid with support for Israel, as do many Republicans in both the Senate and House of Representatives.